Think of me as Papa Bird, lovingly pushing you from the nest. You either spread your wings and fly, or hit the ground and die.
Batgirl: A Matter of Family is special. I am the last one to defend Arkham Knight, but this DLC is an example of using the Arkham Knight engine in creative and intelligent ways. Despite the DLC for this game not being anywhere near the huge scale of the base game, DLCs like A Flip of a Coin, Catwoman's Revenge, and especially this one illustrate great game design, as I've said before, and a true Arkham feeling. On December 11th, 2020, I played Batgirl: A Matter of Family for the first time. Years ago, when it first came out, I watched a playthrough, of course, but I forgot a lot of it and I wanted to view it with a fresh perspective. So after playing it, I realized it is my favorite Arkham Knight DLC, and one of my favorites out of the entire series, maybe even my favorite of all time. But it's not perfect. The AI doesn't fully understand their environment many times, probably from a lack of bug testing. Batgirl has a few wonky animations. It's pretty intense on an Xbox One for some reason. Tim Drake's presence doesn't entirely make sense in continuity. The gadgets and stuff should look like they're from Arkham Asylum, but are just the ones from Arkham Knight. You can see Wayne Plaza and Founders Island in the background, making no sense in continuity because they wouldn't exist yet. Batgirl's character could have been more dynamic, and obviously the bugs, like the one where Batgirl decided to just walk forward and ignore all my inputs.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Maybe there's a bit less polished than I realized.
But to give the DLC credit, I got pretty unlucky with my glitches, many of which only appeared at the beginning, and the continuity errors don't really bother me that much. I've played the DLC like 3 more times after and didn't run into really that many bugs at all, at least not even memorable ones. This DLC actually made me like Batgirl, which I really didn't care about her before. She's actually really cool. The suit is just stunning. It's one of the best suits in the game. Her movement is just so satisfying. She has a personality, even if it's kind of subtle in the story. This just shows me that you don't need to like a character before you play them in a game like Gotham Knights. You may not care about Robin or Nightwing or whatever right now, but you may care about them after you play the game. This DLC was developed by WB Montreal as opposed to Rocksteady, and I think it shows a lot. The two studios have distinctly different styles. WB Montreal was given little time to make Arkham Origins. They were probably given little time to make this DLC. And what I respect so much is that many developers are so talented that they make great products despite the time they are given. Sure, it will be buggy, but I'd way rather play a buggy great game over a polished bad game. Fallout New Vegas is considered one of the greatest games of all time, created in only 18 months, incorporating much of the mechanics and assets from Fallout 3 and using them to their advantage while also adding in their own originality to the Fallout universe. Originally, I wanted to call this video Soul over Polish, but I think that idea more so applies to things like Arkham Origins and New Vegas rather than this DLC, because while it has more bugs than the base game, this distinctively WB Montreal developed DLC is actually pretty polished and pretty detailed because of its very focused scope, location, storyline, and most importantly, its great use of the best aspects of Batman: Arkham Knight. This is the most notable aspect of this DLC. It's arguably the best part of it. This location is so interesting and so unique. It feels like a dark, twisted location that would actually exist in Gotham City. It's also an extremely smart decision to make this DLC very isolated, making it easier to keep the player in the bounds and allows the devs to mainly focus on the map more than a background, which the background is still great. I love being close to the forest, which we rarely get to do at all. I really like the kind of vibrant but also dark color scheme. The background has these nice neon yellows and oranges that make the skyline so freaking cool. Even despite Gotham not making complete sense, it still looks awesome and arguably cooler than Arkham Knight's actual skyline. The massive Wayne Plaza seems like what Wayne Tower was in the background of Arkham City. Seagate Amusement Park isn't very wide, but it is vertically impressive going from the bottom to the very top. The compact nature of this DLC makes makes a lot of sense for the development time they were given, but I am honestly surprised with how much detail and locations they somehow fit in here. It's impressive. WB Montreal is great about presenting their environment. You don't immediately get put inside of the park. You gotta climb up the cable cars, and then you fall to the very bottom and climb to the very top of the map before you are even let loose. And I love when games do that. The way the map is slowly presented to the player, along with the amazing use of cutscenes and music, is just perfect in my opinion. Each main story mission brings you to a unique location, all extending the idea of how old, twisted, and scary this place is. Each gameplay location was somewhat interesting. Much of the combat and predator areas were very competently designed. Each location switched up the environment and made the combat feel fresh. And not every location was this amazing set piece, which isn't necessary, of course. So I like that in between these really cool gameplay sections, you have a few fights in a somewhat mundane but completely fitting industrial environment, as it makes total sense on an oil rig. Most of it's gonna be metal rooms. But I like how they space them out very nicely in between these very cool locations. Also, just the gameplay itself makes every fight great, which I will get to later in the video. The most notable location in this DLC is the creepy roller coaster interior. I was genuinely surprised how expansive this interior was. You get in by dropping a wood platform into a boarded up entrance with a crane, which is just freaking awesome. The first room has two doors, one you can't go through and one you can go through. I really like the level design of this place. It's a big loop. This is the best Predator room in the entire map, having the most gameplay and level design features. The aesthetic could be compared to Panessa Studios, but I found this room way more interesting to Panessa Studios with the sea creature focus. Also, something present throughout the entire map is windows / blocked off areas and details you can investigate, look through, or look at. Something brought up in my Arkham Knight Retrospective Part 3. These sort of elements add a bit of mystery to the map, trying to figure out what's behind this corner or what's through this window. It's very satisfying and cool to sort of look around the map in that way instead of it just sort of being this boring enclosed environment. This is probably the best place to mention how great the comic booky and colorful character designs are for the thugs, Harley Quinn, and especially the Joker. I haven't even mentioned the side content. Collectibles aren't the best side mission content, but I think it was as much as they could do, honestly. And I also love the Joker teeth returning, making it feel a lot like Arkham Asylum. By the way, this DLC feels a lot like Arkham Asylum in general. The second side mission about the history behind the park is amazingly written and gripping, which I will return to later as well. The puzzles for these side missions were scattered throughout the park, adding even more unique things to find. The High Striker was genuinely such a great idea. Everywhere you turn, there is something unique to look at in this park. I also want to comment on the music real quick. Much of the music was originally made for this DLC by composer Michael Vicarage, which I hope I said correctly. Other tracks are distinct fitting tracks from the Arkham Knight OST, which is also really good, by the way. The original music is very unique, but also sounds like a mix of Arkham Origins and Arkham Asylum, which is absolutely perfect for this. It's very ironic, actually. The music is constantly changing as you move through the environment and is used, like I said before, to complement visual scenes. The use of the TVs to present dialogue throughout the DLC by Joker also reminds me so much of Asylum and Origins, and I love that. The gameplay of this DLC is, I think, some of the best in the entire game. Not only do you have the environmental spectacle and the music, but the combat is really fun. Batgirl genuinely feels different to Batman, and some of her animations are so fucking awesome. There's this particular ground takedown animation that is so satisfying, and I enjoy seeing it every single time. Dual play was actually a great feature of the base game, and it returns here a few times with my other favorite playable character, Robin. The final boss fight wasn't as unique as many boss fights from the other previous games, but it was more unique than the ones in Arkham Knight. I like that there are multiple ways to damage the Joker and Harley, and their animations are kinda cool. Unfortunately, Joker's animation shows up way too much, and it kinda doesn't make sense. And funny enough, I didn't even see Harley's animation until I recorded the gameplay for this video. The Predator elements are the most impressive to me. They have sort of reincorporated the fear takedown mechanic in a different way for Batgirl. This DLC DLC very much incentivizes using the environment. Many rooms have hackable objects that can 1. Attract/distract enemies, and 2. Use to activate a fear takedown by either turning off the lights in a room or releasing gas onto enemies. I really appreciate this unique element that really connects the gameplay to the environment. This DLC doesn't require absurd amounts of enemy types, as it keeps its gameplay fresh through the environment and these gameplay features. One last thing I want to point out is the spectacle of each location. What I mean by that is like a unique aspect to a place, like the spinning Ferris wheel, the cops slowly being drowned at the merry-go-round, the crane, the jump scare. These devs did so well at making everything memorable in this DLC. I absolutely love the premise behind this DLC. It is set on Valentine's Day. Joker is tired of Batman's quote-unquote babies getting in the way of their fun. He sees them as fakes, so he wants to surprise Batman with the death of his children as a Valentine's gift. There's also dramatic irony and conflict in the fact that Joker kidnapped Jim Gordon as bait, not knowing that it was her father. Robin and Batgirl aren't extremely complex or anything, but their dynamic is enjoyable. I know people wanted Nightwing, but this doesn't bother me too much because Arkham's like its own unique universe, and I just don't really need it to match up to the comics perfectly. Robin is insecure and Batgirl is shrouded in urgence because of her dad's involvement. Sure, Batgirl doesn't have like an arc really, but she has goals and needs that she achieves. She shows humanity for her dad. At the end, she wants to keep following Joker because of her anger, but Robin has to stop her. I really liked Barbara Gordon even if she wasn't super deep in this DLC, because they really didn't have much time for that. I think the origins behind the Seagate amusement park has the most interesting writing in this DLC. Dr. Quinzel and Joker manipulate Edward into conceiving a makeshift amusement park based on drawings from his daughter, who is dying of cancer. Edward was slowly manipulated into constructing the park until his daughter died from Dr. Young's Titan formula, and he killed himself using Smilex pills Jack White gave him.
Katie died before she could see the park. Jack blamed me and said I should never have taken her to Gotham General in the first place. But how was I to know? He told Dr. Young to triple the dosage of her alternative meds, but that only seemed to make things worse. She died last week, and the pain is unbearable. Dr. Quinzel says it won't get better. She says the pain will just get worse, and that there's no point in going on. She's right. She always is. I signed the park over to Jack, and well, my only hope is that he does something inspiring with it. As for me, I'll be with Katie soon. These pills Jack gave me will make sure of that. They're supposed to be painless.
This has to be one of the most saddening stories in all of Arkham, to be honest. What I like is how interconnected everything is in this DLC. There are even thug conversations, one of which is all about what this guy is thinking of getting his girlfriend for Valentine's Day. I've realized that this DLC may not be as polished as other Arkham Knight content, but it is still very detailed and filled with so much to discover. WB Montreal took the best aspects of Arkham Knight, like the combat, like dual play, fear takedowns, amazing asset use, the graphics, dynamic lighting, etc., and really used it to their advantage to create a cohesive package. They used the physics and tech of Arkham Knight like a playground, toying around with so many moving/animated objects like the crane, objects reacting to the wind, moving objects with player input, and all of that combined into the giant spinning Ferris wheel, which has more spectacle than most of the base game to me. But none of that would be possible without Rocksteady's amazing talent. Like, I'm constantly critiquing Arkham Knight, but damn, the Arkham Knight engine is absolutely incredible. The post-processed film grain just brings the retro aesthetic to life. The graphics are just incomprehensibly good for no real good reason. The base combat is extremely detailed. Like, this may be embarrassing, but I just learned a few days ago that you can do special combo gadget moves, which are awesome. The assets are great, the music is also great. I don't think it's used in the best places in the game, but the music itself is amazing. The level of detail is immaculate. The stuff they do with the physics in Arkham Knight is just insane and still surprising. I don't even know how it works. My real issue is that these things just don't come together well, in my opinion, to create a truly impressive experience, to tell a focused story. In my opinion, Batgirl: A Matter of Family does a great job of combining these elements. That's why I'm giving this DLC 8 Joker teeth out of 10.